Niger. La voix de l'opposition a sonné l'unité au Niger. J'aime à nous regarder sous mon terre casser le Niger. Allah ne ya halata, mutanen gabas da yamma, mutanen kudu da arewa, duk mun samu da a Niger. La voix de la presse a sonné la liberté. Al-Bishirun
suis africain, je suis l'hymne africain. De tout mon cœur, mon âme et mon esprit, je vais le dire. De toutes mes forces, je suis africain, je suis l'union africaine. I'm African, I'm African Union. With all my heart, my soul and my spirit, I will say it. With all my strength, I'm African, I'm the African Union. I'm African, I am the African Union. And I am very proud to be African.
Le fuoco cosce ma si voyente la sta. Te coia prescio non si strugge sul lugar là. Yamon, copa yamoya. Yamon, copa yamoya. Funicule, funicula. Copa yamoya, funicule, funicula.
Yamo, copa yamoya. Yamo, copa yamoya. Funiculi, funicula. Copa yamoya, funiculi, funicula.
Aishera nani memene sagrite tu sayaro. Ai nos tu curen grato scigi spiete farmei non può. Naron lo fuoco cosce ma si voyente la sta. E non te coia prescio non si strugge sul lugar là. Yamon, copa yamoya. Yamon, copa yamoya. Funicule, funicula. Copa yamoya, funicule, funicula.
Yamo, copa yamoya. Yamo, copa yamoya. Funiculi, funicula. Copa yamoya, funiculi, funicula. Yamo, copa yamoya. Yamo, copa yamoya. Funiculi, funicula. Copa yamoya, funiculi, funicula.
Il y a froid dans la neige. Le soleil, les arbres.
Without infrastructure and energy, a continent that will be integrated.
Agenda 2063. The Programme for Infrastructure Development in Africa is a continental framework of Agenda 2063 that aims to address the infrastructure deficits that have hampered Africa's competitiveness in the world market. PIDA aims to deliver on its vision for Africa by focusing on 4 key areas: water, transport, information and communication technology, and energy. In relation to energy, the goal is to develop efficient, reliable, affordable, and environmentally friendly energy networks through development of clean power generation and transmission, high-capacity oil and gas pipelines, and development of renewable energy resources. Furthermore, PIDA will promote and enhance integrated water resource management through development of transboundary waterways and strengthening institutional cooperation for efficient management of shared water resources. PIDA also aims to build a transportation service that will promote movement of people, goods, and services through development of a modern African regional transport infrastructure network of roads, railways, ports.
kurate de tautini. Sara ya be mokoli. Mate kolokalama. Korokunye ye majoye. Sara ya be mokoli. Mate kolokalama. Sutianama. Gelatike te batikeye. Gelatike te batikeye. Korokunye ye majoye. Sunyanama tokotilebebo. Mate korokarama. Gelatike te batikeye.
Bismillah.
In the name of Allah, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Governments, I welcome you all, and I declare here the session of the Medi Coordination Meeting open. At the outset, I would like to welcome you all once more. And special thanks for my brother, His Excellency the President Mohamed Issoufou, the President of Niger, for the hospitality and the very well organization for the summit, and the hospitality from the government of Niger. Allow me to start the opening of this session by a statement to be delivered by His Excellency the President Issoufou, the President of Niger. our host for today's meeting. And also, Niger is one of the member states of the Summit Bureau from the West region. I call upon Your Excellency. Please, the floor is yours, Your Excellency.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Chairperson, I thank you for giving me the floor. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, President of the Arab Republic of Egypt and the current chairperson of the African Union, distinguished heads of state and government, Mr. Moussa Faki, chairperson of the African Union Commission, the chairpersons of the Regional Economic Commissions, the Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, honorable ministers, distinguished guests, friends and partners of Niger and of Africa, ladies and gentlemen. Niger is delighted to host the maiden coordination meeting between the African Union and the regional economic communities. And Niger feels so honored that this meeting is taking place in the wake of the meeting that took place right here in Niamey of the 14th Extraordinary Session of the Heads of State and Government of the African Union, dedicated to the launching of the operational phase of the Continental Free Trade Area. The curtains on this event, this very landmark successful event, have barely been drawn, that Africa is meeting yet again in another extraordinary summit, because this is going to launch the very first coordination and consultation meeting between the African Union and the regional economic communities. On behalf of the people of Niger, I want to wish you all a warm welcome here in Niamey. I'd like to thank and commend President Paul Kagame, champion of our common institutional reform process, reforms which I must say it has to do with the financing of our organization, the restructuring of the organizational chart of the Commission, and the current initiative of setting up a coordination meeting between the African Union Commission and the REX, and also the stopping of our second ordinary summit. Allow me also to thank the members of the Bureau of our Assembly, the regional economic communities, and also the heads of the different commissions for their commitment. I also would like to thank the President of the African Development Bank, the President of the Afrexim Bank for their sterling efforts in the Continental Integration Project. And Mr. Chairman, concerning the African Development Bank, I would like that we give him a strong support, all the more so because the African Development Bank is trying to increase its capital and also to provide more funds. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to say that our meeting today is of a peculiar nature. Peculiar because it is supposed to lay the foundation of a solid synergy that is going to ease the various processes and initiatives that we have embarked on in order to promote economic and social development of our respective countries and to ensure meaningful transformation of our continent. As part of the 2063 strategy that is going to mark the 100 years of our organization, we have actually set ourselves lofty goals, but goals that fall in line with us. It's extremely important that the activities undertaken by the various regional economic communities and those undertaken by our commission should dovetail into each other in order to avoid duplications and apply the principle of subsidiarity, but also to share experiences and results and ensure that we go hand in hand at the same pace and towards the same direction, and that no region on this continent is going to be left behind. The first 10-year plan, 2013-2023, is halfway through its implementation. If we have recorded a major improvement on the AFCFTA, the other 11 flagship projects have not really seen much progress on the ground. They need more additional efforts, and they need us to pay more attention to them and to ensure close monitoring. I mean, everything that we need to do to ensure that we have these projects take off the ground. And I would like to recall here that over and above the Continental Free Trade Area, the first 10-year plan has other 11 flagship projects. The projects that I named yesterday in my opening statement. Ladies and gentlemen, the burning desire for unity and integration has always been one of the key objectives of our founding fathers. This concern has constantly been reaffirmed by African leaders and well articulated in the basic documents of our organization, like the Abuja Treaty, the Lagos Plan of Action, which are genuine platforms dedicated to economic development and continental integration. The Abuja Treaty speaks to the regional economic communities and see them as the building block of integration and development of the African continent. The regional economic communities are the kingpins of the continent, and they are going to be the foundation of the continent that we want to build by 2063. It's supposed to be the platform to harmonize our policies at the regional and continental level. Some of the regions have actually made much progress, like the free movement of people, the common external tariff, a single currency, and that is the case with the ECOWAS, with the bold decision to scrap visas, to have a common external tariff, and also to have a common currency by 2020. Some regional economic communities have to be revitalized and tailored to suit their role as the engine of transformation of our African economies, as suggested by the Kagame report. It is worth noting, once again, I say welcome to you all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much, Excellency President Mohamed Issoufou, for this statement, and allow me now to share with you some opening remarks at the beginning of our minimized summit of today. In the name of Allah, Your Majesties, Excellencies, Kings and heads of African countries, Mr. Moussa Faki Mohammed, the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, ladies and gentlemen, heads of delegations, distinguished guests. At the outset, I would like to express my appreciation for my dear brother, President Mohamed Issoufou, for the hospitality and the very organization by Niger, the brother country. I would like also to thank challenges that actually entailed all our efforts and sharpening our minds in order to overcome these challenges and problems, taking into account the changing needs and developments that are being witnessed in our countries and peoples by the time. Your Majesties, Excellencies, Kings and heads of the African states, the 8 regional economic communities are indispensable in supporting the links among us, the African countries from north to south and from east to west, making them a main pillar to further promote the joint African action. Despite the differences of the possibilities of these economic communities and also the differences of the institutional capacities and the differences of the comparative advantages and levels of integration, yet we have to really appreciate the active role in pushing forward the efforts of regional integration in all parts of the continent. Based on that, our media coordination today is a really very proper opportunity in order to consolidate harmonization and consistency between the work of the African Union and the activities of the regional economic communities, the 8 of them. Through consolidating links amongst all these communities on one hand and promoting the existing cooperation between them and the African Union on the other hand. It's now the time to put a comprehensive framework and a realistic action plan in order to push forward the wheel of regional integration under the auspices of the African Union, taking into account the main principles and objectives agreed upon in Agenda 2063, and also taking into account the strategic objectives that have been agreed upon by the subsequent African summits. In addition, we have to put clear lines for the division of labor between the African Union and the regional economic communities to guarantee complementarity and also to optimize the benefits from the comparative advantages of each and every community so that to avoid duplication, wasting time, and the limited resources. It is very important as well, while we are embarking on a new phase in our joint African path, that not to limit our joint efforts to these traditional ways of regional integration. We have to open new horizons, ambitious horizons, so that to have integrated policies and implementation in different fields. In addition, to have a clear strategic vision and political vision for what we are embarking on as for the division of labor, and to have this vision formulated under the leadership of the member states to consolidate the ownership for this process and to affirm the political willingness to implement the outcomes through the African Union and the regional economic communities, in addition to the other regional continental mechanisms and institutes concerned. It's very important as well that this vision include a track in order to raise the efficiency of the AUC, the secretariats of the RECs, in order to shoulder their responsibilities perfectly within the framework of the new labor division. We have to link this also with the efforts of administrative, financial, and institutional reform that is currently ongoing in the AUC, and also to widen this reform to include all organs of the African Union and the RECs. Also, we shall not deal with the division of labor in our beloved continent in separation from the infrastructure development and energy, and also to consolidate midterm peace and security in Africa in order to achieve the highest levels of continental integration. Brothers and sisters, in conclusion, I would like to affirm that we are looking forward to have concrete and implementable outcomes of our meeting today in order to push forward the African integration process. I'm confident that all the briefings we will listen to today from the African Union Commission and the representatives of the regional economic communities will really help us to draw a very accurate and updated picture about the state of regional and continental integration. And also, we will have a clear vision about the state of the implementation of the protocol related to the division of labor between the African Union and the 8 RECs. Undoubtedly speaking, this will really help us in order to have an integrated vision for the labor division between the African Union and the 8 RECs, and also the member states. This will help us as well to identify the roles and responsibilities expected from all parties concerned. Thank you so much for your attentive listening, and I declare the first mid-year coordination meeting of the African Union. Peace be upon you. Thank you so much. And now allow me to declare the end of the opening session, and I invite you, heads of state and the members of the Bureau, heads of RECs, and also the executive secretaries of these communities, and the executive secretary of UNECA, the head of ADB. Please, you're all invited to have a photo on this occasion of the first media coordination meeting. The protocol people shall guide us. They will guide you for where we will take the photo also. The meeting shall be resumed 15 minutes later in a closed session by only the parties that are referred to in the decision of the MEDI coordination meeting. Thank you. The session adjourned.